Truth or Dare was meant to be a fun and harmless game, a silly way to break the ice at our engagement party, surrounded by friends and family. But it ended up being a ticking time bomb, one that destroyed everything we had built together. At first, the party was perfect. The decorations were stunning, the food was delicious, and everyone was laughing and celebrating our love. Jake, my fiancé, was beaming with pride as he introduced me to his college friends and distant relatives. I felt on top of the world, soaking in the happiness of the moment. Then, someone, probably one of Jake's overly excited cousins, suggested playing the game. At the beginning, it was light and fun. People asked silly questions about embarrassing childhood moments, and the dares were playful, like doing goofy dance moves or speaking in ridiculous accents. Just the kind of things that make everyone laugh. But as the night went on and the champagne kept flowing, the questions became bolder and the dares more daring. Jake's best friend, Matt, leaned back in his chair, a mischievous grin on his face, and directed his question at me. Truth or dare, Sophie? I hesitated. All eyes were on me. The room grew silent. Truth, I replied cautiously. Matt's grin grew wider. What's the biggest lie you've ever told, Jake? The room fell completely silent. My heart raced. I could feel Jake's gaze on me, a mix of curiosity and amusement. I tried to laugh it off. Oh, come on, Matt. That's too serious for a party. But Matt didn't back down. Hey, it's part of the game. You have to answer. I looked at Jake, whose playful smile encouraged me to keep going. So I swallowed hard and decided to be honest. I thought that maybe being truthful would make everything better. Fine. The biggest lie I told Jake was that I didn't date anyone else during the first few months of our relationship. The room became deafeningly quiet. Jake's face immediately shifted from playful to confused, then to something darker. What do you mean? He asked, his voice tight. I tried to explain, my words stumbling over each other. It wasn't serious. We weren't exclusive yet. It didn't mean anything. I didn't think it mattered after we became official. But you lied, he cut in, his tone sharp and cold. All this time, you let me think I was the only one. Why keep that from me? The tension in the room was suffocating. I could feel everyone's eyes on us, the silence stretching out, growing heavier by the second. Jake, it wasn't a big deal, I pleaded. I didn't want to hurt you over something so small. To him, it wasn't small. It's a big deal to me, he said, standing up. His voice wavered as he added, especially now, on the night we're supposed to be celebrating our future together. I reached for his hand, but he pulled away. The pain in his eyes cut me deeply. Jake, please don't do this here. But it was too late. He took a deep breath, reached into his pocket, and pulled out the engagement ring. I can't do this right now, he said, placing it on the table. Gasps filled the room as he turned and walked out. I stood there, frozen, humiliated, and heartbroken, while our guests whispered among themselves. What was supposed to be the happiest night of our lives had turned into a nightmare, all because of one careless game. The room seemed to spin as I stared at the ring Jake had left behind. It was meant to be a symbol of our future, now abandoned on the table in front of everyone. The weight of it all hit me like a freight train. I had ruined everything. Our engagement, our trust, our happiness, all because of one foolish moment of honesty. My mind raced, trying to make sense of what had just happened. I could hear whispers, the quiet murmur of people trying to figure out what had gone wrong. I could feel the sting of their judgment, the awkwardness thick in the air. Sophie, maybe you should talk to him, suggested Ellie, one of Jake's cousins, approaching me gently. He's probably just really upset. I nodded numbly, but I couldn't move. How could I fix this? How could I make Jake understand that I never meant to hurt him, that the past didn't matter anymore, and all I wanted was to spend my life with him? The tears stung my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. This wasn't the time. Definitely not in front of everyone, not in front of the people who had been here to celebrate us just moments ago. I glanced around the room. Some people were still drinking. Some were talking quietly, and a few had already begun to leave, clearly uncomfortable with the attention. The heat of embarrassment rose in my chest as I realized I was the cause of this disaster. And then there was Matt. I saw him standing by the door, looking uneasy but somehow smug. His grin had disappeared, but there was still something in his eyes that made my blood boil. He had started all this. It had been his question, his dare, that set everything in motion. I wanted to confront him, to shout at him for ruining everything. But deep down, I knew that would only make things worse. Instead, I turned and walked toward the door, determined to find Jake. As soon as I stepped outside, the cool night air hit me, and for a brief moment, I felt a sense of clarity. I needed to apologize. I needed to make Jake see that I was still the woman he had fallen in love with. I found Jake near the car, his arms crossed, staring blankly at the street. His back was stiff, his posture closed off. "Jake," I said softly, walking up to him. He didn't turn to face me. "Jake, please listen." He let out a frustrated sigh and finally turned to face me. His eyes were red, his voice rough. "Why didn't you just tell me, Sophie? Why keep something like that from me? I thought we were building something real." "I thought we were too," I replied, tears beginning to slip past my defenses. "But I panicked. I didn't want you to think I was still stuck in the past. I wanted everything to be perfect, and now I've ruined it all." Jake's expression softened just a little. "You didn't ruin everything, but lying to me, hiding things from me, that hurts, Sophie. I trusted you, and now, I'm not sure if I can anymore." His words shattered me. My heart broke into pieces. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Jake. I made a mistake, but I love you. I need you to know that. I want this to work. I want us to work." Jake was silent for a long time, his eyes searching mine. Then he took a deep breath. "I need time, Sophie. I can't make any decisions right now. I need to think. I need space." The words hit me like a punch to the chest. "Okay," I whispered, barely able to speak. "I understand." He turned away, walking back toward the car, leaving me standing alone in the dark. As I watched him go, I couldn't help but wonder if we would ever be the same again. The sound of Jake's footsteps faded in the distance, and I stood frozen, the weight of everything that had just happened settling on me. The engagement party was over, but the damage had only just begun. I had chosen to be honest, but now the truth felt like a double-edged sword, cutting through everything I held dear. I watched Jake's figure disappear into the night, feeling more alone than I ever had. My heart ached for him, for us, for everything we had lost in those few moments. I didn't want him to walk away. I wanted him to turn around and tell me it was all just a misunderstanding. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. He needed time to heal, time to decide if he could ever trust me again. I pulled my phone from my pocket and stared at the screen. There were messages from friends, family, people who had been celebrating with us. But now, they felt so distant, like echoes from another life. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I didn't want to hear their pity or their sympathy. All I wanted was Jake back, but I knew that if I truly wanted to fix this, I had to give him space. I had to let him breathe, even if it felt like it was tearing me apart. I turned around and walked back into the house, my footsteps heavy. The living room was now still. The laughter and chatter had been replaced by an unsettling silence. People were huddled in small groups, whispering behind their hands, some shooting awkward glances at me as I passed. I could feel the judgment in their eyes, the unspoken question of whether Jake and I would make it through this after all. Ellie approached me again, her expression now more serious, more compassionate. "Sophie, I'm so sorry. I know this is a lot, but you need to talk to him. You need to fix this, if you can. We're all rooting for you." Her words, though kind, felt like a slap in the face. I wasn't sure I could fix it. I didn't know if there was any way back from this. "I don't know if I can," I whispered, my voice barely audible. He's so hurt. I've lost his trust, Ellie, and I don't know if I can ever get it back. Ellie placed a hand on my shoulder. Her eyes filled with understanding. You have to try, she said gently. I can't tell you how, but you need to. Don't give up on him yet. I nodded, but doubt swirled inside me. How could I make him believe in me again? How could I undo the damage caused by that single truth? As the night wore on and the guests slowly left, I sat alone in the living room, staring at the engagement ring Jake had left behind. It glittered in the dim light, taunting me, reminding me of everything I had lost. I couldn't sleep that night. Instead, I replayed the events over and over in my mind, wondering what I could have said differently, what I could have done to prevent this. But no matter how many times I thought it through, the truth remained. I had lied, and I had broken something that had once seemed unbreakable. The next morning, I woke up with a sense of dread, not knowing what the day would bring. I sent Jake a message, asking if he was okay and telling him I was ready to talk whenever he was. But the message sat unread for hours, and my heart sank every time I checked my phone. It wasn't until late afternoon that I finally got a reply. I need more time, Sophie. I'm not ready to talk yet. Please respect that. His words hit me like a punch, but I understood. I couldn't force him to talk to me. I had to respect his need for space, no matter how much it hurt. I spent the day trying to distract myself, cleaning up the mess from the party, picking up the pieces, pretending everything was fine. But it wasn't fine. My engagement, my future, was hanging by a thread, and I had no idea if I could ever put it back together. Days turned into weeks, and Jake's silence stretched on. I gave him space, but every day felt like I was sinking deeper into uncertainty. There were moments when hope would flicker, like catching an accidental glance at a photo of us, remembering the better times. But then reality would crash back in. The distance between us had grown wider, and I was still stuck on the other side, unable to reach him. I still loved him with all my heart, but I didn't know if love would be enough to repair what I had broken. The days blurred together, and the silence between Jake and me grew louder. I spent each moment trying to piece myself back together, but without Jake, it felt impossible. Our home, once full of laughter and dreams of a future together, now felt empty, like a shell haunted by the echoes of what it used to be. I kept busy, doing everything I could to avoid being alone with my thoughts. I went to work, spent time with friends who were sympathetic but kept their distance, and tried to maintain a sense of normalcy. But every night, when I was alone, my mind would spiral back to Jake. Was he thinking about me? Was he regretting his decision? Was there any chance for us? The hardest part was seeing the engagement ring sitting in the drawer untouched. I'd look at it and remember the way Jake had looked at me when he put it on my finger. It was supposed to be a promise, a symbol of a lifetime together. Now, it was just a painful reminder of everything I had lost. I felt like I had lost him completely. I tried calling him a few times, but each call went straight to voicemail. His replies to my texts were short, almost robotic. I'm not ready. We need space. I'll reach out when I'm ready to talk. I felt powerless, like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, reaching for him but unable to get close enough. Then, one evening, I received a message from him that was different. I'm coming over tomorrow. We need to talk. The words hit me like a burst of energy. He was finally ready to talk. My heart raced, and my hand shook as I quickly typed back, "Okay, I'll be here." That night, I barely slept. I ran through everything I wanted to say, trying to figure out how to fix the mess I had created. But when the morning came, my mind felt blank. What could I say to make him understand? What could I do to make him trust me again? The doorbell rang just before noon. I opened the door to find Jake standing there, his face weary, his eyes still holding the pain from that night. He wasn't wearing the engagement ring. I didn't know if he wanted me to wear it, he said softly, his gaze never quite meeting mine. I didn't want to make this harder. I swallowed hard, fighting back the lump in my throat. "You don't have to wear it. It's okay." He nodded and stepped inside. The space between us felt charged, heavy with all the things we hadn't said. I could feel the distance, and I knew that even though he was here, it wasn't going to be easy. "I've been thinking a lot," Jake began, sitting down on the couch, "about what happened, about what you said and what I did." I sat across from him, my hands in my lap, trying to calm my pounding heart. "I've been thinking too," I whispered. "I made a huge mistake, Jake. I hurt you, and I'm so sorry. I never meant to lie to you. I thought I was protecting us, but all I did was push you away." Jake ran a hand through his hair, clearly frustrated, but I could tell he was listening. "I get that. I really do," he said. "But the thing is, it wasn't just that I was hurt. It felt like you didn't trust me enough to tell me the truth, and that's what really stung. I thought we were building something together, Sophie. I thought we could be open with each other about anything. And when you hid something like that from me, it made me question everything. It made me wonder if you were still keeping things from me. If I could ever trust you again." His words hit me hard. I could hear the pain in his voice, and it made my heart ache in ways I hadn't expected. "I understand," I said softly. "I don't blame you for being hurt. I made a mistake, and I have to live with that. But I want to be better. I want to rebuild your trust. I don't want to lose you. I love you, Jake. I don't want to let this ruin us." Jake was silent for a long moment, his gaze fixed on the floor as he processed everything. Finally, he looked up at me, his eyes softening just a little. "I don't know if I can just forget about it," he said quietly. "I don't know if I can turn off how hurt I feel, but I'm willing to try. I need time, Sophie. I need to see that you're serious about this, that you're committed to us." Tears filled my eyes as I listened to him.